Hey Heart Healers, William here again. It's been a while since I've been active on this page. I think it's been approximately 6 weeks since I last posted a video or have written anything to publish online. I just wanted to take a moment to sit down to record the video I'm doing right now to share some of the reasons why I haven't been active on here and the effect that those reasons for my inactivity have had on me. And as always, the sole purpose of me doing this is purely and simply just to share the experiences and lessons that I have been going through over the past 6 weeks, to share that with others so that they can hopefully avoid the same pains and mistakes that I have, and it will hopefully give whoever needs to hear these things today some strength or encouragement or guidance. In my last video, I spoke at length about the experience I was going through in regards to my own psychological state at the time. I was in a semi-mild depressive state and I wasn't feeling great, and I touched upon the reasons why I had slipped into this and the effect that was having on me. Shortly after I published that video, I reached out to my family in a bid to seek support, not for my own well-being, but to seek support for this page, to let them know that I had created this project and that I was using the experiences of my life and struggles to share with others in the bid to hopefully help others heal. One of the most important pieces of advice I have ever been given in my entire life was by one of my uncles, an uncle that I deeply respect and admire. I was taking a lot of drugs at the time. It was in 2013. I was in my third year of university. I had just gone through quite a painful breakup, and for the most part I didn't really understand anything about myself. I didn't know who I was, I didn't know why I was here, I didn't know what I wanted to do, I didn't know really anything about me. I didn't understand my past, I didn't understand my mind and why I felt the way I felt, and I didn't understand why I was shy and insecure and anxious. I just really didn't have a deep grasp of who I was as a person. But I remember distinctly that I was taking a lot of drugs at the time, and I had gone through a breakup, and I remember feeling really, really low and depressed, and I hadn't really experienced this before. And I remember speaking to him on the phone, and he said to me, "William, don't make any decisions when you feel the dark clouds clouding your mind." And when I do feel those dark clouds now, still to this day, and that's almost 8 years later, I still hear him say that to me, "William, don't make any decisions when you feel those dark clouds in your mind." And looking back at the decision I made to share the idea of this project with my family at the time, which I did 6 weeks ago, it was a decision that was very much being impacted by the dark clouds that were clouding my mind. I had just recorded a video about being in a depressive state and the effect that was having, and I guess I hadn't considered, as a depressive person doesn't, because our minds aren't functioning rationally at that time. We're in a more of an emotional place than a rational and logical place. I hadn't considered that what I was going to share with them, they may not be ready to hear or see. And I want to share with you the reaction that sharing of this project had within my family, and I want to share with you the effect that reaction had on me and my mental health. Now, when I made the decision to share this idea with them, as I said, I was still very much in a depressive frame of mind, so I wasn't thinking logically or rationally. But when I made the decision to share this with them, the intention behind me doing so was purely and simply to show them that I had created a new project and I was doing what I could to help others on their journeys, by sharing the experiences that had very much shaped the core of who I am and had very much steered the direction of the ship of my life for many, many years, so approximately 14 years. And I guess the reaction that I received took me by surprise, and it sent me down an even further dark slope. As I said, I was already in a dark place of mind, and I wasn't expecting the reaction that I had received. And it threw me completely off the rails and dragged me into a very, very, very low place for a number of weeks. Now, I've been very vocal in the past and recently too about the effect of the divorce of my parents and how it had impacted my life and my psychological well-being and just me as a person in general. Our family went through an extremely traumatic divorce, and it left a lot of pain residually, and I suppose still very much current, but even when we heal the pain of our past, I suppose the scars are still there, and they, while they might not steer our ship anymore, they're still very much in our minds, and they're still very much a part of our life. Now, I guess what I want to point out here is that people deal with pain and trauma in different ways. The way that we all heal as individuals, we do completely individually and differently to everyone else. The way I may heal and the things that may help me to process and manage my emotions and my pains of my past could be very, very different to you or whoever else is watching this. For me, the biggest thing that has helped me process the events of my life has been sharing these experiences with other people. To me, the sharing of my experiences and the pains and the traumas and the scars and everything that has shaped me, it gives that pain that I have experienced purpose, because by me sharing that with other people, it gives other people the tools and insights that I never had when I was going through this, and it makes everything that I experienced worth it, I suppose. Now, the topic of the divorce of my family and the breakdown of our familial unit is a sensitive topic, as I'm sure it is for many, many families. Divorce is a deeply damaging thing, and it's often something shrouded in secrecy. There's a lot of shame and guilt that is attached societally to the idea of a divorce. If a divorce fails or breaks down, you receive judgment and you're chastised by the community because you've taken this sacred marital vow, and if you break that, you get cast into the depths of hell, and blah blah blah. All of this religious impositions and ideologies that are attached to this idea of divorce and marriage, and it puts a lot of pressure and, as I said, guilt and shame on those who maybe aren't able to continue with a marriage. And coming from a country like Northern Ireland, where I am from, which is a deeply Christian country, it's had its fair share of religious warfare and division over the years. That guilt and shame that is imposed societally by the church and the country as a whole, because it is a religious country, amplifies that guilt and shame, and it makes the idea of a divorce all that more impactful on those who experience it. Now, I should point out that, in the interest of fairness, not every member of my family reacted negatively to the sharing of this project, and they did not react to the things that I've been writing about or have been speaking about. For the most part, they were supportive of that. But there were certain members in my family who did react to what I was doing and reacted to my choice to share the circumstances and experiences of my life and how that impacted me. And they chose to react to it in a way that I hadn't anticipated. And for me, I've struggled, and I've spoken about this publicly in the past. It's very much a part of me, and it's not something I hold any shame over anymore. I was ashamed of this for many, many years because I primarily didn't understand it, and because I'm a man, I'm not allowed to feel the things that I was ashamed of, and that further amplifies the shame that you feel. But for me, I struggle with the idea of rejection and abandonment. It's something that has deeply scarred me, and it was something deeply traumatic at the time of my parents' separation. When our family did eventually officially separate and it was broken down and ripped apart, I was estranged from my mother for approximately 4.5 years. I had no contact with her, I didn't speak to her, I never seen her. It was a very confusing and dark time for me, and I didn't really understand much of it at the time. But through a lot of dedicated psychological therapy and taking the decision to stand up and address all of this from the past, I have learned that the reason I struggle with rejection and abandonment, and the reason why this impacts me so hard, and the reason why I regress into these states of being whenever I am faced with the idea of rejection or abandonment, is because of that. It stems from that experience. And these triggers, these rejection and abandonment triggers, were brought to the surface again with my family whenever I made the decision to share this with them. As I said, particular members of my family didn't react to it well, and it impacted me heavily that my family thought that I was doing something, deliberately malicious in order to open up old wounds or to hurt anyone or to have any intention behind what I was doing to be other than for the benefit of others. It hurt me deeply to think that my family were rejecting me and they were abandoning me, and that I was being misunderstood and I was being isolated and left alone again as I was when I was a 14-year-old boy, and I had no control over the external circumstances of my life. I had the inability to make any decisions for myself, and my whole life was uprooted and everything was just changed, and that was it. So to experience this again, to have these psychological triggers and emotional triggers resurface for me, very much surrounding the idea of my family, which was the thing that caused these emotional and psychological triggers of trauma to be rooted in me and to be created in me. It brought all of this back, and as I said previously, this had all taken place at the time I was in a mild depressive state in my mind, and with these emotional triggers, and these are deeply seated emotional triggers, things that I've been carrying in my heart and soul and in my mind for most of my life, at least half of it. I'm 29 now, and this happened from the age of 10 to 14, so it's deeply embedded in me. But to have these all brought back up again in a depressive state, it just completely broke me. I regressed into an even more dark place, and I lost all will and hope to even be alive and to continue to do this. And I find myself slipping into even more destructive and negative behavior patterns. I was eating a lot of crappy food, I wasn't exercising, I was tired, I wasn't looking after myself, I wasn't doing the things that I knew I needed to do in order to get myself back on my feet. I was wallowing in self-pity, I was spending more time in my room, I was spending more time watching TV, I was just generally in a very dark place. And anyone that has experienced depression before, I guess you'll understand what it is like whenever you're in a hole that is so deep and so emotionally painful that there's nothing you can do that will make that pain go away. No matter what you try to do to avoid it or escape it, it's always there. And the only thing that you can do is just accept that you're in this state, accept that you're going to feel this way, and just know that it will eventually subside and it will pass, and that it's happened to you before, and that you've survived it in the past, and that you're strong enough to do it again. But obviously at the time when you're feeling like that, that's the last thing on your mind, because it's very hard to not get sucked into the darkness that shrouds your entire being. But sometimes we're able to do it, and sometimes we're not. Oh, and I'm just going to include here really quickly, if you could take a moment while you're watching this to maybe give a like on the page or like the video and subscribe, or even head over to YouTube and check us out there. It would be really beneficial, and it really helps pages like these when we're trying to get things off the ground. It seems really trivial, but it makes a huge difference if you like or comment or subscribe or do anything. It just helps to get this message out more. So anyway, back to the video. And I guess this brings me to the crux of this video and the purpose behind me taking the time to sit down and record this today, to share with whoever decides to take the time out of their day to watch this. You see, for me, over the past year and a bit, I very much started to embrace the idea of belief and faith that I have. So I've said before in writings and videos, I've always outrightly rejected the idea of religion, because I've come from a country that has been torn apart by religious conflict, and the idea of religion and organised or mass religion has never sat with me, especially if it is imposed or forced upon anyone. But for me, the idea of faith has came into my life in a way that I had not anticipated it doing so, and I guess I've surrendered to the fact that when life presents me or you or anyone else with these kinds of challenges, it is more of an opportunity for us to let go of whatever it is that is making us feel this way, to let go of the pains that don't serve us anymore, to let go of the behaviours that aren't aligned with who we truly are as a person, that don't line up with the direction that we are heading in our lives. I spent 14 years of my life not understanding who I was. I spent 14 years of my life not being allowed to talk about my emotions or how I felt, or to share anything with others, because by talking about how you feel or your past, it's shameful and you should feel guilty about it, and all of this other negative stuff that is forced and shoved down the throats of everyone, but particularly as a man And particularly as a man from Ireland, it's shoved upon us and it's mercilessly imposed that we are not allowed to open ourselves up and to share the things that hurt us. Now, I lived that way for almost half of my life, or probably most of my life. I always tried to be the person that everyone else wanted me to be. I always tried to be happy, smiling William that always had a smile on his face and that was never upset or never angry or never anything other than smiley and happy and jokey, because that's who everyone else wanted me as William to be. And when you do decide to change, when you decide to step into the person that you truly are, to step into the purpose of your life, it is hard for the people in your life to accept that, because when you decide to make a change, that change illuminates for the people in your lives, the people that may react to the changes that you're making for your own good, that they are not making changes, that they're still very much rooted in the place that they're in. Your strength and courage to stand up and to speak the truth of who you are and to become the person that you're meant to be makes other people feel uncomfortable. It makes them realize that they are not as strong or courageous as you, that they are not able to take the steps that you are able to take, that they are not able to embrace change in the way that you are, that they are not able to take the steps that you're able to take in order to change your life, to take back the power into your hands, to stop being the person that everyone else wants you to be. My change is scary, rejection is scary, abandonment is scary. All of these things that come about when we decide to make these changes for ourselves, to step into that person that we are meant to be, to speak the truth of our lives and just speak truth in general. All these things that challenge us, that come up in resistance to the idea of truth, these are the opportunities that life gives us, these challenges that life throws in our way when we decide to become who we're meant to be, when we start to feel the things inside of us change, when the energy within our beings starts to rise. These are the things that life will give us in order to let go, to shed whatever does not serve us, to take back the power into our hearts and into our hands, to speak the truth of who we are and the truth of our lives. These are the moments that life will present when we are ready to step into the person that life knows that we are meant to be. And I ask you, if you find yourself experiencing anything that I'm talking about here, if you've found yourself in these situations, these are the times in which we have a choice to make. Do we continue being the person that everyone else expects us to be? Or do we rise up? And do we accept the challenge? And do we carry the light of truth? And do we become who we are destined to be? Remember, life will not throw anything at you that you cannot handle. No matter what you think about yourself, no matter what idea you hold of yourself, no matter if you're confident or lacking confidence, whether you have high self-esteem or low self-esteem, life will not give you anything that it does not think you're capable of handling. And if you find yourself confronted by the truth, if you find yourself in a situation similar to the situation I've described with my family, if you find yourself being challenged and you face resistance when you start to be true to yourself and you start to speak your own truth, if you find this happening to you, remember you have the power to do this, and that life has given you these opportunities to stand up and face this, that you have the strength to do it, and that the truth of who you are trumps everyone else. The most important thing in your life is you. You have to be true to yourself before you can be true to others. And if you've been given the opportunity to go down this path, take it with open arms. Thanks again, as always, guys, if you're still here watching. I hope what we've spoken about today will have been of service to you, and that you'll be able to carry this and hopefully use and integrate into the journey on the rest of this path that we call life. And with that, as always, with peace, love and joy, I'll see you again soon.